and congratulations
Thank
on
you.
this wonderful movie. I'm such a fan.
Oh, thank you so
Um,
much. It's good to hear.
for people who haven't seen the trailer, how would you describe this film in your own words?
Well, it's a murder mystery set in the 1930s. It's got some kind of like adventurous elements that take our characters on a journey through Egypt as they try to get to the bottom of a murder at the British Embassy in Egypt. Returning from this is the second chapter in Miranda Green's kind of story as a private investigator. Our first film kind of introduced her to the world of solving real life murders. And now she's gone into business for herself. We're in the early chapters of her career as a detective, and we kind of see if she's bitten off more than she can chew. And it's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. And I love the comedy along with the tension in there, and you never know who you can trust. So, as a director, how did you decide on your pacing and making that transition for us so it kept us engaged in this story all the way?
Yes, yeah. I agree with you. I think that moments of levity are extremely important, and finding ways to inject them in ways that don't feel forced frequently comes from, I think, just reflecting on like if I were stuck in a room and this many things were happening, like at what point is someone going to let off steam? And which characters are the most likely to do that? And who is like I think one of the more kind of exasperated by the whole situation sort of characters is it's Betty Hathaway, played by Antonia Bernath. And she's this American actress who's in town telling lies to everyone about how incredible her career is. And so no one really believes that she's there because she's been invited by royalty because they're such fans of her work. And she's just aggravated that she's stuck in this one location. She's supposed to be on this glorious journey. We meet her in the middle of a massive shopping trip, you know. And so it was easy to find ways for her to be the one to kind of lean on kind of that release of tension with comedy. But we also there's moments where just Mahmoud, played by Mido Hamada, expresses his frustration in a way that's very curt and very funny. And so everyone's got little moments where you can experience something that's like that helps kind of bring that levity.
Yeah.
Because one thing that we are very conscious of, I think, and I think we succeeded in, was trying to make sure that every scene sort of rolls into the next scene with something that kind of pushes you into the story and wanting to see more. But that tension can't be the only thing you experience, or you're just going to die.
Yeah.
So,
And that's why I loved it because, like you said, there were these moments, and there were these moments as a director, you had that nuance to allow them that space with their faces because there were things Mito was doing. I was like, okay, I could see it in his face.
yeah,
And
yeah,
those
for
subtle
sure.
things are so important. Like, and I love the way you held that moment for all of them. So let's talk about working with them. I mean, obviously it was a great experience. What
Yes.
was that for you in that learning curve? Were you things that you expected and you thought, wow, maybe you should do that with the improv moments? What was that like for you?
With everyone, um, I think every actor is going to do so much more work on their character than I ever could, right? I'm trying to pilot this ship, but they're taking their character and working on making it a real person. And so giving them the opportunity to just bring what they're bringing to set and offer what they have. There will be moments where you're like, "Oh, we should do this instead of that." But also, like I'm a huge fan of just seeing how like not just seeing the person who's talking, but what is the person listening to them doing while they're talking? And those reactions for me is where a lot of this murder mystery kind of chemistry and tension comes from. But then there will be moments where I just never even thought of doing something. There was one moment, Nell Barlow, who plays the ambassador's daughter, has a very tearful delivery of a line towards the end of the film that was really special to me. Just because it didn't occur to me for it to be delivered that way. And I was like, my gosh, like look at what you just did to this one line that tells me so much about your character and her experience in this moment. And so like watching out for that stuff and trying not to trample on everybody and kind of let everyone bring whatever gold that they have to the experience, I think is really important. So they're all incredible. And I mean, having them all in a room together at the same time, I think the biggest challenge for me was how do I get enough angles of everyone before we run out of sunlight? Like it was never a challenge of like, gosh, I wish these actors were better or they were bringing their A game. They were all phenomenal. And the challenge was, making sure that we had the time we needed to get what we needed.
And I love that in that short moment, they kind of grew and you saw their changes and you saw them develop, which is kind of marvelous to do. It's such, you didn't have this whole series to do it. You had to show it to us in that one moment of that film. So you did a great job. And let's talk about, of course, the embassy. You've got this embassy with this amazing set and dealing with that. So what was that like navigating that world? And again, you're in this claustrophobic scene at the same time. They can't leave and all these things are
Yeah.
happening. So what was that
Yeah.
like?
Yeah, it's so our first movie is a bit of a locked door mystery. Everyone's trapped in the same place. And then this one, it shares an element of locking certain characters into one place, but then you have some characters that are able to leave because there's no way they could possibly be suspects, right? And we find them exploring the vast beauty that is Egypt, while the rest of our characters are kind of stuck at the embassy. And we had to, in order to accomplish what we needed to, the embassy location is split across multiple different places. And so at that point, you're working with, okay, these rooms exist at this physical location, but it needs to be believable that this area is also in the same, structure, but we're shooting it somewhere else. And so just kind of like coordinating exactly where everything was and making sure that when you're watching the movie, you're not distracted by the idea that all of this stuff would exist in the same place, and just kind of like letting the audience be immersed in the moment was a big challenge. But beautiful locations. There's not a single spot that I dislike in this movie. It's easy, I guess, to just have it be the amount of life and beauty and energy that like just being in front of the Great Pyramids of Giza brings to the movie. It's just like it's doing the work for me, right? So there was a lot of that in this movie, a lot of rich texture, a lot of incredible things to look at all the time. So
Well, I told Mido I want to go to Egypt now. I've always wanted to go on my list, but now seeing that scene of the pyramids, I'm like, okay, I've got to go. So
yes,
thank
yeah, I
you.
definitely would recommend 10 out of 10. So if you can.
Definite.
I had never been. This movie took me to Egypt, and it was just such a wonderful experience and such an incredible opportunity.
Yeah,
So yeah,
great. And this film has a lot of elements of, decision making, moral tones, political things. How relevant is this film in today's world that you've made?
yeah, I think stories overall feel like there's always something relevant to you as a viewer watching. You bring your life into the movie theater, and the movie brings its story, and you meet in the middle. And that experience is something that only you have. No one else is having that experience when they watch the movie. And so there's always going to be things that will be so relevant to the individual. But beyond that, there are themes in this movie that I think are very relevant to our current discourse about so much. And so much of that is kind of just like I don't want to give anything away,
No,
but
don't, please.
there's a lot that there are lessons that Miranda needs to learn that kind of encapsulate a lot of I think relevant current events. So anyway, I guess that's all I'll say.
Yes.
But I think
Well,
I think yes, for sure.
I took away the fact that we have to trust. We have to allow ourselves the opportunity to question things. And
Hmm.
I think that for me, that was important to watch this film. And we can learn so much on all levels of how this film was presented to the audience. So I really appreciate that you did that. But before I let you go, was there one thing you learned about yourself doing this project that you hadn't learned before, or maybe you remembered from the past and you think, wow, you know what? Doing this really made this happen. What was that like for you personally, doing this project?
I I think there was a moment on set where I was kind of just thrown back and stunned because like you spend your days just trying to accomplish the movie. And there was a moment that with our on-set archaeologist who was telling us where we could and couldn't step in the specific area that we were, where he told me that no one had ever shot in that specific spot before. No one had filmed anything there, and just being like, it was like I had to stop and appreciate for a moment, like the area that I was in, the thousands of years of human history in that spot. And there's a moment where you kind of like question yourself of like, wow, am I even, who am I to be doing this? You know, and I feel like I had kind of like a little bit of a similar experience to Miranda Green's character as a detective. She's like, did I bite off more than I could chew? And you know, you learn to just meet the moment and that, you know, to trust yourself, I guess. And no matter how big the task feels, that as long as you're working hard and relying on good people, that you can get across that finish line.